Hey, good evening. We'll get started. I know that those of you know me, I have a loud voice, but I'll use this anyways and try to talk softer, so I'm not overwhelming tonight to people. But my name is Mark. I'm the superintendent of Eggerss Schools, and just thanks a lot for coming out tonight. I know your time is valuable. I want to make sure I talk and give you guys as much information as possible, as we head to May, so you can make an informed decision. And I'm so appreciative of Ohio City from my career. I don't just say that because we're in Ohio City and you guys are here tonight, but 10 years into my career, I got asked to consider administration. And one of my first asks as a job is, we're going to bring Van Wert kids over to Ohio City and take some Ohio City kids to Van Wert, and how's that going to all go, Mark? What's your plan? And that's when my love of Ohio City started, to be honest with you, because that was a huge challenge for me. And for those of you who live downtown, you may have heard taking care of business in the mornings, because we were going to the city. The bus was coming to the city. And so for 3 years, I look back at my 29-year career in education, it's some of the best years of my life. And I truly mean that. It saddens me at times to go by the school now and see how it looks. No offense to anyone, but took a lot of pride. The people that worked there took a lot of pride in Ohio City. And so what I don't want to ever have happen to anything that we do is when I went to Shelby last year and saw their stadium that was condemned. We put a game there last year. That's what I never want to see happen either at Van Wert. So I do want to say thanks for coming tonight. And I do want to thank a lot of people. First of all, Jeff Crew met with Eric McCracken and I and John White and offered us the building, and we said, let's do a meeting in the fall, let's do one in the spring. Because we'll have a lot more information in the spring to give you about specifics. Tonight, a little more general, more specifics in the spring. And I'll go over those things as we go through the night. And then obviously Scott Bingham, he's taping this tonight, and Scott opened it up early, he's got things set up for us with our two chairmen, Eric McCracken and John White are the chairman of our stadium committee. I'm more to inform, but I also have opinions too. Those guys and their team is here. We've got a big team of our stadium committee are here tonight to help support as well. So I go back to that time many years ago when I was over here and we were getting ready to build our new school. And I've told everybody in Van Wert, Ohio City, wherever our community is, I've told everybody I was 100% dead set the stadium should be at our new school, which is 16 years old, by the way. I've told people that. That's where our kids go, that's where it should be. Over those 16 years, things have changed somewhat. And I want to fast forward into 2017. I was a middle school principal. 2017, there was a survey done to a lot of different people, over 2,000 people, because we had kicked the can down the road with the stadium for a long time. In fact, when I became principal at Ohio City, they were talking about the stadium then. It's been about 20 years ago. And so when that conversation came up and the survey was done, it was overwhelming. 71% of the people wanted to be downtown. How does that happen, though? It takes a lot of money, obviously, to renovate a stadium that was built a long time ago, 1938. And, along the way, I want to give kudos. Again, I went to the Shelby game last year. If you were there and you saw their stadium, it's very similar to our stadium, but not maintained. And they told us that. They even came to us and said, we let it go. What our staff does now, in current day, incredible. One of the people who are back here right now, Kurt Schaffner, is back here right now. He's been instrumental in helping our stadium stay the way it is, and the field the way it was, after the Mud Bowl. Brad Scheidt's here tonight, former, I worked with Brad for forever. That's why we're both bald probably. But Brad, his work on that stadium. So there's a lot of people that have done a lot of work. But that 4 years ago, that kind of piqued my interest, like, wow, that kind of surprised me. I thought people were moving on from that, but they hadn't. And people like Larry Mendrick, even then, would talk to me and email me and say, what do you think, and what's your opinion, and all those kind of things. And I was still I was still kind of like surprised that people were that passionate about Eggerss. I didn't have that passion yet. I'll be truthfully honest. 2018 and 19, there were more studies done about the feasibility and how much do we fundraise. The stadium needed a lot of work, even though it's been taking care of the best of our buildings that we could do. And so that study showed, and there was a meeting that happened. 2018, 2019, studies done the whole way. 2020, COVID hits. In fact, the day that COVID hit, I got offered the superintendent's job at VWCS schools. What the heck was I thinking? 20 months later, I gained weight and lost more hair. But that's a true story. March 13, 2020, I was offered the job. That summer of 2020, to fast forward, we had a meeting that was in a lecture hall. It was one of my first meetings. I got hired August 1st. I was, of course, working before that because we had COVID to deal with and all the protocols and all those kind of things. And that meeting, I've never seen as much emotion in a public meeting as I saw that night. About, we're going to raise 1.3? This can't happen. We have to do something. Something must be done. This isn't going to happen at all. So, for that meeting, my mind started thinking, maybe there's something to this. And I started to get a bug in my ear, and the bug was Eric McCracken. Eric would talk to me, and he was drawing, if you've ever seen coaches before, they sometimes draw plays on napkins. Eric was drawing up plays on what we could do based on a piece of paper and just showing me things. And I'm thinking more and more. And he wasn't over the top or persuasive. He just said, think about these things. Following that meeting, about a week later, Seth Baker from the Van County Foundation wanted to meet with me. And he told me kind of the vision for downtown Van Wert. And I laughed. I did. Seth and I were friends. I laughed. I said, there's no way, Seth, that we're going to see all this stuff happen in Van Wert. You know, I've heard about the addition now for about 5 years. I go to Jimmy's daily, weekly, probably too much. Again, that's why I'm gaining weight. But I said, Jimmy, we need to open. Well, you know, there's stuff that's happening. So, Seth, that's not going to happen. There's no way that Van Wert's going to invest that much money downtown. And I truly think, when that happened, the county foundation was saying, Mark Bagley's going to ask for lots of money for the stadium. We never did that. Never. I wanted to listen. But my mind started thinking, as a 51-year adult, where do I go all the time? I go to Fort Wayne, I go to Lima all the time. Out to eat, for entertainment. You know what? I've lived in Van Wert my whole life, 51 years. I think Van Wert deserves that if we're willing to make a commitment. I started thinking about not just 5 home football games. I started thinking about, I enjoy concerts now. I'm old. I enjoy listening to concerts. What if we had concerts in our stadium and I could walk across the bridge and walk to downtown Van Wert and get a drink without being looked at like he's crazy? Get a burger at a place that we could do. And afterwards, get a coffee and sit out and listen to music. Why can't Van Wert be that destination? Why can't we do those kind of things? And I started thinking, I'm spending hundreds of dollars elsewhere. I want to spend money in Van Wert. And from there, our school board started talking and saying, listen, Mark, if you think this is the way we've got to go, we got to look at this. And our school board was unanimous in saying that it passed a resolution, 5-0, let's go. And the X factor for me was when we met I'd never bet about a bond before. I didn't know what a bond was until I got explained to me. But we met with the bond guy. That's what I call him, the bond guy. I like the bond guy. And he started telling Mark, you can get somewhere between $4 and $5 million. Between $4 and $5 million for about, on the average $100,000 evaluated house, for about $35 a year. Dime a day. Wow. We go and raise $1.3 million and we could get that. So when I heard that number, I started thinking, that's doable. And we need to talk to people and tell them what our vision is to make that dream of mine of me personally walking across the bridge into Van Wert that's redone, remodeled. A reality. And quite frankly, Ohio City is a huge part of that. I give huge amounts of credit as we're looking at signs. We talk about football all the time, and yeah, I got a bet with my good buddy at Port Clinton that I have to wear the jersey of Port Clinton, and he's have to wear this. I'm going to throw this jersey on Friday night and say, put it on, because you're going to be wearing it after the meeting. Everybody thinks it's going to be about football for Mark Bagley. It's not about football. It's about Van Wert. It's about Ohio City, because when I pull into Ohio City, and I still call it Shufflers, sorry for those, if anybody knows that in here. That's what I call it. I love Shufflers. I love talking to people there, and they were great to me. They were so awesome to me when I was over here. I always had, I have a memory. My first administration job, I didn't know what the heck I was doing, but I know the people over here accepted me. I know that school at night scary too. I was there a lot of nights. But when to see the championship signs of our state athletes and teams coming to Ohio City, that makes me proud. Because I've always felt, I never knew about Ohio City before I came here. I didn't. But when I sure left, I sure knew about Ohio City. Because I knew people work hard here, and they care about what happens. And it wasn't always their choice to go to Van Wert. I know that. I've talked to John Rollins many times about that vote or whatever happened that night. I'm not sure. But I know that I want Ohio City to be part of it, because I care about this town a lot. And so I want to go through those conversations we started having, because a lot of the work was done. And I give Bill Clifton a huge amount of credit. Bill Clifton is a lifetime Van Wert guy that, coached and has been an administrator forever. Bill Clifton has pushed a lot of these things. And as far as meetings, and Bill is very thorough with those kind of things. So these are the 2019 plans. I want to make sure you understand, from that time on, the last year, 2020, last 20 months, we've met with 4 architects that have different visions and goals, and we're getting ready to select one. So this is one person's view of how that would look. It's very basic and general. But I want to go through some of these things and try to answer some questions that you may have as we go through. Because I do want to stress to you, we're getting that narrowed down, that $4 to $5 million. In the pamphlet, that'll come around when we're done here. Our team will pass those out. It says, $5 million. It could be less than that. We're not 100% sure right now. As you know, there's many boats over off the coast of California right now with lots of stuff. And who knows what the price of that stuff is when it all comes. One day it's lumber, one day it's steel, one day it's who knows what, a bolt missing. That kind of thing. So we think it's going to be, to do the things we want to do, probably closer to 5 when it's all said and done. And I think it's going to, can I guarantee it'll last another 85 years? No. But this is, the longevity factor is huge. So the one thing you don't see on this right here is, down in the south end zone, which is right here, there's a lot more grassy area. And I finally asked the question, why in the world, it looks nice, we have a lot of grassy area there. You can't see it on here, but down below the south end zone. Thank you. Thank you. It looks like Vanna White now. So down here, where this part is. And so, Bill, we did some research and investigated all the people that invest. It was money. Like, we're going to do this project in phases. So one of the coolest visions that they've had as we talked is, we can get about 185 parking spots out here in this grassy area, which is a big concern. Finley Donnell Stadium hosts playoff games every year, just as a sub-note. If you read the article already, or some of the information, parking is an issue. We last played there in our 2000 state run, the runner-up, and that's a huge, I remember parking a long way away. So even state-of-the-art stadiums like Finley have issues with parking. We know that's an issue. Downtown Van Wert knows that's an issue. So there's a plan to put parking here. And what's been really cool is we've started to get people involved, like Bob Sloan, our band director. And tomorrow morning you'll read about some of John's work. John White writes an article every other week, 6 of them. There'll be an independent and Times Bulletin tomorrow about some things with our band. What the band told us, this is from 2 years ago. So all of a sudden, Bob Sloan's saying, wait, time out. We've thought about this and talked to the band directors. The visitor band down here isn't a great idea. The home band is a great idea. Here's why. We've had to play our home band down in a stadium with bleachers one game. That was a game that our visitor bleachers that are now new got condemned, and we had to put new ones up, and of course there were delays. They weren't ready for the Bryan game that year. So the city of Van Wert, Kyle Klinker, all hands on deck, brought bleachers in here, our band played down there. It sounds great, it's awesome. I heard that over and over and over as a middle school principal, and the reason why is project out the field. Right now they're up here, and they're projecting down away from our fans, and it's different. So all of a sudden now, with some new ideas and new drawings will come out, so that's why I want to meet again in the spring to tell you the updates. This little square building, which will house concessions, storage, we're thinking restrooms, a smaller amount, and even possibly official changing areas, will now turn from this square building, we'll move it down and make it rectangular. So it'll balance these bleachers out. The visitor band and the home band together in that area is not a good idea. We've talked to band directors. We put the visiting band back in their bleachers. And now we got a rectangular building down there. And now all of a sudden, we've got some more surface area. With, instead of having maybe two buildings, we have one building down there. And so that's a huge change that we're making from this graphic that we think, as we talk to people and even architects, because we get new ideas. Every time an architect comes, we get new ideas, and they give us new ideas as well. That will be very beneficial for us as we go, which allows us to have a space in the middle, which allows us to have that entrance that we need. So it's not, if you go down to the ticket booth now, it's a bottleneck down there. Now we have an entrance of a parking lot right up to the middle where there's going to be a, that's always been the vision of a wrought iron type entrance. Elida has that now, and you know, superintendents talk a lot. Joel Mendrick is a friend of mine, a teammate of mine for basketball. It's Larry's son. Joel and I are going to meet in the next couple of weeks after Thanksgiving to talk about how that could look, because Elida has some of that features right there. So that's kind of the band and concession stand / restroom / storage area, possibly officials too. We're still looking at all the square footage there from there. We're all set on the visitor side. We spent that money. That's money we're still paying off, but we spent that money, and the visitor side is complete. I want to focus next on, I never realized this when I was a lot younger. I was a lot more athletic. I could just run up the stairs. But as I've gotten older and noticed that, instead of babysitting middle school kids, I'm now sitting down. It's treacherous. First of all, the ramps you go up are not, if we talked about handicap accessibility, if we truly had a handicap, those ramps would go out down past the end of the stadium. They'd be so long. It's not real conducive and safe. And then number two, walking up the stairwell, there's no handrails. And you go on the seats, it's slippery. We had 3 saves. I call them 3 saves our last home game, where people were catching people as they're falling down. Because they're trying to walk across the bleachers, they get slippery, all that kind of stuff. So I've learned, as you restore the concrete on top, my son wants to be an engineer, so I took him through just out of curiosity. He's a junior now in college. And he's like, I'm surprised how good this is on top. There isn't much rebar exposed. So I learned all about rebar. If you expose rebar, what happens when you get moisture and all that kind of good stuff. But the top is not in bad shape, but it needs to be refinished. It's a coat that goes over the top, and that coat protects the concrete. And obviously the appearance makes it a lot nicer as well. So instead of cutting concrete, I heard that first from him. You can't cut concrete, Dad. You cut concrete, and all of a sudden you start exposing things. You add to concrete. You don't cut it. And then the architects have kind of confirmed that too. So we make the aisleways longer, wider. We cut some seats off. Oh no, how many seats will we lose? Well, yeah, we'll lose maybe 100 seats that way by making the aisleways a little bit wider. But think about where our band sits now. They take the whole first section up. Those band students are now out of there, so now we got a bunch of seats down there. It equals out to about the same number as before. And we're looking at the best way to get up from the exit ramps and entrance ramps. And right now, most people are saying stairs. Put stairs with handrails up there versus the ramps that are a steep incline. Our handicap ramps then will be on both ends. And that'll be on both ends. And we'll also we're looking at handicap decks on both ends. So that's kind of the top end of that. The bottom underneath is going to be totally gutted. And right now, the plan is to put both home and visitor locker rooms underneath the stadium. It's going to be, some locker rooms are square. This is more rectangular, more long. Brand new bathrooms. You'll see some pictures of the bathrooms tomorrow in the paper. If you've been to a Ohio State game before, guys, it's the old trough concept. The ladies are a little bit nicer in our stadium, but they're not great. So we have bathrooms underneath, both locker rooms that are up to code, and it puts us back underneath the stadium, which allows us to use the Goody building now for more storage for band, more storage for other things that we have up there too, because that will stay. So that's the underneath portion of it. Behind the stadium then, and that's where the press box is constructed. And the press box is somewhere between a double-decker and a 1.5 press box. That's what we're looking at right now. 1.5 means you have different layers where you can be at and those kind of things. Heating, cooling, again, thinking more than football. If you're having concerts and different things, you want to have an area that people can work because the lighting also is different for some of those events. And that's one of the big things. Our lights now are capable of going to LEDs. We've already studied that a little bit, and that's what you may need for some concerts and different events too. And it may be more cost effective there. But the poles themselves are in great shape. We're not worried about that. But that press box has a lot of different features that, if you look at our press box this year, it looks great from the outside. We wrapped it, 2020 state champions, new signage, new windows, looks great. Inside, it's train wreck. You go in there, and it's no one's fault, it's just old. It's been added on to a couple of times. There's not much room, there's stuff in there. This gives us a lot more space in there. This gives us, I talked to Brian's, just put a new press box in. They have suites, so to speak. They're not really suites, but they're nicer, and they host people up there. People can rent them out for games and different events they have as well. So we're looking at utilizing this. One of the most exciting things I think is down below that press box, and it basically, there's a crease in our stadium that basically allows it to expand. The press box goes from one crease to the next. In front of that press box will be a handicap accessible platform. Because right now, we see our handicap viewers, whatever you want to say, back in the northwest corner of the end zone. It's terrible. They're down here by the wall. Or some come down by the fence down here by the flagpole. That's where we sit them right now. And this platform will be huge. I think, how long was our press box? I'll put a curl on the spot. How long was our press box now, Kurt? Yeah, I'm thinking we're talking about almost 90 feet, like 3 times the size in front. But because it's behind, we don't lose all the seats. The seats we lose is going to be the platform across. So again, we're not talking about a ton of seats there. It's and that'll be handicap accessible with an elevator up to go out in front and watch the game from the basically the 40 to 50 to 40 yard line. The next question is the wall. That's always been the noise. The wall may be one of the most iconic features of the stadium. It's very unique. It's extremely unique. I always thought the wall was about 2 feet away from the end zone. It's actually a little over 5 feet. We've measured. We've had all kinds of people in to look at the wall. Because people say, I've heard we'll have to move the field. Well, you start moving the field, all of a sudden everything gets off whack and off centered. We looked at moving the wall. And we've had city engineers in to look at that. But right now, we think we don't have to move the wall at all. From all the studies we've done, we can keep the wall where it's at, because it's far enough away from injury that we don't have to worry about that. But if we do, we'll look at that and see what has to happen. That's an unknown right now. There's a lot of different factors out there with that. And then the playing surface is the last thing I want to talk about. When I say playing surface, that also could mean having a concert on there. Right now, our field, we've estimated, we're spending $25,000+ a year on that field with man hours, fertilizer, watering, mowing, lining, you name it. And to be honest with you, and not just because Kurt's here tonight, the amount of hours they've spent after the Mud Bowl, turf has become so much different now. I've done more research on turf the last about 6 months than I ever dreamed of, imagined. But turf eliminates a lot of those things. Are there things you have to worry about? Yeah. How many years does it last? When you watch Ohio State games, their field lasted 8 years. That's not good. The field should last 14 years if it's taken care of the proper way. That's what most fields last with artificial turf. And when you redo it, you're not redoing everything. You're doing the top surface. Because to put turf in, you have to put a lot of layers and different things on it there as well. So all the investigation of turf, people think it's millions of dollars. Turf is getting more and more reasonable now. And the turf latest price we got was just over $600,000. So that's a chunk of money for it, but it allows you to do many other things on it. When I say many other things, besides that, then you can have all kind of band contests all the time on it. You can have cheerleading contests, you can have gymnastics, you can do all kind of things on there. In the spring right now, our sports, what happens in the spring when it's like it was Sunday and Monday, which was, thankfully it's not snowing tonight, but our athletic teams go inside. Let's go out. Time's up. And our athletic teams are inside, and it's a cluster for everybody, for our custodians, for our coaches, for our athletes. People have talked about creatively how you can do baseball and softball and do different things out there. Not the same. It's not a baseball field. It's not a softball field. But you can do things out there besides that because you don't have to worry so much about the water because it's the way it drains and those kind of things. And the city has done a great job telling us where things are. They've talked to us about where pipes are, where things you have to avoid, and there's a big crown in the stadium right now. Where does that dirt go? And all that kind of stuff. So we've done that research, all in all, as far as that goes. And so, again, to sum things up, parking, entrance, band in the end zone, home band, rectangular building that would include concession stand, storage, restrooms, officials, top and bottom of the stadium, totally got it. Right now you walk underneath it, it's a dungeon, didn't mention that. Lighting, areas to sit, whole different atmosphere. We're even talking about, you could hold some kind of party down there that would allow you to have people, not that you wouldn't want to go down there for that, it's kind of scary down there, but with lighting and different things, you can do some different events down there as well. Press box, wall restored, how that looks, still looking at it. So that's kind of the whole look right now, with many questions still to be answered that we have about the final cost, which we do feel like what's put out there as 5 million tops is still very doable. And we know that there's some questions about how does this building look and how does the entrance look and the parking look out front. How do the locker rooms look underneath? But those are things that the architects will help us with as we move along. So I just wanted to emphasize to you again those numbers that have been presented to us that we'll finalize here in January for the May 3rd election. I'm good, thank you. You can pass it out if you want. Again, that was 2 years ago. Lots of things I've talked about are added to it. Is that for the average $100,000 evaluated house, about $35 a year. Interest rates are still really low. They're fluctuating a little bit. They're still really low. So that comes out to be $35 approximately a year, about a dime a day for 20 years. And so people ask, Mark, why'd you switch? I think I gave you a little bit of the reason why I did about, I love Van Wert. I love the Van Wert community. Ohio City is very much a part of that. And I want to, I want to see my grandkids maybe play there, maybe attend a concert there, walk across the bridge with them, if I'm able to do that, walk downtown. I've done that now in my new job. I've walked out of my office, you're having a bad day or you need to think, and I walk downtown and I hear music. And I'm able to go into a shop and get a coffee. I don't like coffee very much, but I drink a little bit of it because it's got caffeine in it. And I could go get a burger at the addition without feeling like you're being judged. You just walk in there and it's kind of like Cheers. That's what I want, and that can be expanded. Talk to Jimmy Collins. I want more restaurants downtown. I want more of this. This is what Van Wert needs. Because we're not going to get every single person back to Van Wert. But the people that I talk to a lot, and younger people, they want to come back, but they always tell me there's nothing there for me. If we are just going to redo the stadium for 5 home football games, I want no part of that. If we're going to redo the stadium, that could be more opportunities and more opportunities for Van Wert City Schools and Van Wert City. I'm all in. And that's where I'm at right now. And I wanted to, as we talked, I wanted to come to Ohio City. I want to come back in the spring and give you exact details. Because I'm that passionate about this community and the Van Wert community because it's a wide range of thoughts and ideas. On the pamphlet in front of you, a lot of the things that we've spent a lot of time, our committee spent time on, and I do feel bad for one thing tonight. Our school board members felt really bad tonight. Our play, fall play, had to get switched to Tuesday, Thursday this week because of our football success. The fall play was supposed to be Friday, Saturday. So we've got 3 of our school board members working to play. They've got kids involved. They're working it tonight. One of our smart board members, she's on assignment down in Duquesne where she teaches. She's a doctor and a college professor as well. And who knows what Greg Blackmore's doing right now? I try to get a hold of him all afternoon. I can't find Greg. Greg's a great guy and been a good advocate. Greg had grandkid duties tonight. But I do want you to know they were 5-0, resolution supported with that. Our administration is covering the play tonight too as well. So I guess it's stuck, by himself. No, I'm just joking. But I'm very thankful. Our committee has been awesome with ideas and those kind of things. Their job is more to influence you. My job is try to inform you. But I also have the personal side where, we're allowed to change our opinions in life sometimes. And I did. And I'm thankful that I look at Van Wert differently now in my position. Questions? I want to take any questions you have. John.
Yeah, Mark, real quick. I think I have 3. You're talking about a bridge, first of all. I heard a rumor that maybe a bridge from the park to the stadium. Is that what you're talking about?
There has been some preliminary discussions. I can't confirm or deny how fast that will be, but there has been talk about that.
Okay. Another one. The seating. Are they going to stay with the bench seating, or are they going to put theater seats in like the middle section like I saw at Napoleon the other night? That hasn't been decided. That's a great question, John. That came up the other day when we were with the architects. They said, have you thought about putting some premium seats in the middle? And my answer to that is yeah. I thought about that. You could charge more for those. But I'm also very respectful to people that have been long-time ticket holders too as well. But could there be I think that there's a lot of things with that. And that prompts another question. One of the things that we're going to do too, the stadium will be called Eggerss Stadium. But
Could our field goal post be called something different with naming rights? Yes. Could our field be called? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're not opposed to having people have naming rights for our stadium. We don't want it to be a rodeo, with colors and signs everywhere, but I think naming rights are very appropriate for the stadium because, again, you look anywhere, everybody's doing that, and there's some value to that as well. So I think that's a great question, John. We have to look at that very seriously.
Okay. And my last one is, I know downtown, they got the historic designation. Is the stadium a historic designation? Does it qualify for any grant money from the government?
Well, we're on the outside of that a little bit, and Steph and I talked a long time. The problem with that is, we investigated this, because the last thing we want to do is, the last time that went to voters for money was 2000, I think, 13 it changed from a 5-year income to a permanent income of 1%. But before that, the school was 2003. So it's been a long time. But one of the things when you designate something as historic, the code is off the charts. And so you're stuck with whatever they tell you to do. And if it doesn't, like people start saying, what in the world did you do that for? Well, we had to get the money. And so we don't want to be tied. We want to preserve Eggerss to the best of our ability. That's why we've even talked about, the wrought iron fence out front. That front end is really cool with brick, but it may be cool with a similar pillar to the wall to do that in a concrete type of shape too. So there's been talk about some of those things as well, not to get boxed in, on some of those things. So that was the biggest thing that Steph and I investigated was you get locked in. People give you money, and all of a sudden you have all these requirements, and so you get stuck in the mud a little bit as well.
Could you talk a little bit about maintenance long term? How are we going to maintain this thing?
Yeah, so we already looked ahead to that a little bit, and one of our first events we did in the wrecking crew helped organize and kept the money for us. But we had a reverse raffle here in the fall that raised about $13,000 to go in our athletic funds improvement plan. Because we have things. Our track, our booster club is very influential in that. We have our tennis courts. And if you know Wayne Kildenall, Wayne may have twisted your arm off to get money for those tennis courts, but Wayne was instrumental. But Wayne's not going to be asking for money forever. He's done that, did that, been there, done that. So we've got track, tennis courts, basketball courts. Our surface area is huge on our basketball courts that need to be redone. And then we have the stadium with some of those things would be the turf to get replaced after a certain amount of time. In the coating, they've explained the coating, how it all looks and those kind of things. We're going to Defiance. Defiance has done this. They restored their stadium with the same kind of thing. Jerry Beatty, who's the former coach and also a teacher at Van Wert, talked to Jerry quite a few times about that and to look at how that looks. So we have to have an athletic maintenance fund to help support that. That's huge. $13,000 is great. It's not enough. So between our booster club, between our wrecking crew, between our athletic fund, one of the things that's happened too as well is right now our permanent improvement fund, it's about $400,000 a year. We're paying a lot of debt on the visitor bleachers. Is one area we're paying debt on right now. So once that gets paid off here in a few years, some of that money will be earmarked for athletics as well. So that money will go into a fund that will build and build and build. So now we're not going to be trying to nickel and dime people for money and asking, we need this, we need that, we need this. I mean, that's never our intention because we had that fine line of, okay, we need money to operate, which we just finished the 5-year forecast today. It looks pretty darn good. I was pretty happy. There's no red in the next 5 years for operating, so just so you know. That's the forecast, which is a forecast. But the fine line is operating money and asking for money to operate our schools, and what the heck do you want to put $5 million in the stadium? That was a big question we had to ask ourselves, are you being smart with that? And with the uncertainty of COVID? So we had to make sure, to the best of our ability, that we were in good shape there. We've tried really hard to be fiscally responsible without having windmills and without having solar. And again, whether your opinion of that, I understand that. That's a very volatile conversation. But Tennessee Link, you're getting tons of money every year on windmills and solar panels, and we're not. So that's another, whether you like it or not, we can argue that till the sun goes down, but it is another source they have that we don't have. And so that's a great question, John. We have to make sure that there are plans for the future. We're hoping we can save in other areas, like the amount of time and money we spend on the field. I mean, it's unbelievable. I mean, not to put you on the spot, Kurt, but your week, was most of your week on the field, would you say?
The vast majority, yes.
I mean, every time I was out there, they were out there.
Probably 30 hours during the season per week.
You think about how much time is spent, and take a tremendous amount of pride in that. They all, over the years, and I give credit, to people like Kurt, and now, we've got Greg Scheid, who's done a great job. Before that, Randy Seaman. Those guys cared about saving money for Baylor City Schools. That's a huge deal. Yes?
Mark, you mentioned that there's only 3 foot, something like that, the wall down there.
5. It's 5, actually. I was surprised.
Okay, well, I got a question. Would you consider moving the field, shifting to 5 yards? Now, whenever they put that wall there, forward pass wasn't even meant. But, you can see our team now, we're throwing the ball a whole lot more. And if you throw a fade in the end zone, you're going to kiss the ball pretty quick, or the chain link fence together. Would there be any consideration to just shift it to 5 yards? Just something, to get it away from there. If you can't move the wall, I don't know if you can, then you haven't said that yet.
Yeah, and I think we're trying to leave everything on the table there. Our goal would not to be middle of food, but if we, if it's going to be that, or you have to pad the wall, or do this to the wall, or you can't move it, I mean, we may have to make some concessions there. That's one of the things. And for sure, what's going to happen, that chain link fence on the other end will come out, and we're going to expand that area a little bit. That driveway is pretty wide, that asphalt. We can move, we know we can move that back, because that's only about 2 feet there. It's amazing. I mean, it's luck. In my years of watching, I've never seen anybody hit the wall or get hurt on the fence, which is truly amazing. I mean, I think athletes adjust, but crossing our fingers and hoping isn't good enough. We need to make sure we look at every single scenario. And yeah, I mean, you start looking at a couple yards or 5 or whatever, that may make sense, because we've been told the variance should be 10 feet. That'd be better. Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
I got another question.
Okay.
You notice, you said you're going to add the restroom with a concession stand. This is one of my pet peeves, I'm speaking up to the women here. If you don't put enough restroom space in for the women, whenever we opened the Night Wonder Center, that first night I was there, and I was actually embarrassed because the women didn't have enough space to go to the restroom. So, would you consider expanding the women's restroom? Yes, I plan.
I think because of code, underneath the stadium, we'll have a ton of women's restrooms, because we'll have to do some things based on code, and when we do that. I think by the concession stand out, not as many, but it gives you 2 different areas, and it gives our visitors a chance to go somewhere too that's not walking all the way across. One of the questions too to address that as well is, for different events, there's no concessions underneath the stadium, because that's going to become more storage. If you've been to the concession stands or worked in them, it's a dungeon. You'll see a picture of that tomorrow too in the paper, or the Independent. It's just not very conducive, but we've considered, and John and I talked, we had a good discussion about that, making a small concession underneath there for those people, if they are handicapped or it's hard. We don't want them walking all the way over to the middle of the middle of the south end zone, all the way over here to go to the concession stand. So we're thinking about maybe a smaller one underneath that. If you have a concert or whatever else, another event, it will be really easy for those people that once they come in, they don't want to be trucking all over the place. That's what happens now. It's very hard. I know people that go to the games now, once they get in their seat, they don't want to stay, they don't want to leave till the end because they're just going down ramps and going down stairs and without handrails. That's a huge thing. We spend a lot of time on safety, parking, handicapped. You know, the wall is a huge concern. We want to preserve it the best we can. So all those things we've thought about because, again, we want to make sure that every person that comes in has a good experience. And people love Eggerss, but there's some experiences that are tough for people right now with that. Yes?
I was just going to say, I shoot photos for the paper.
Yes.
There's more room between the wall than there is the fence. The fence has about 2 feet. Sometimes the officials will say something to me, maybe not, because there's not much room. The wall, they never say a word about it. I go my back against the wall. I've never seen a play come close to, like you said.
Yeah, we definitely, you know, we just going right in the game, and we were losing tons of money because of it. So that was always meant to be temporary. So that would all come down and go through that as well. Something I didn't mention, kind of a timeline, just so you know. If the bond issue passes in May, we can get rolling fairly quickly with a first-year phase that could probably include some end zone construction, parking. Not sure if the building can be done yet. They're still analyzing all that. But do all that and do the turf. And then we play the football season at Eggerss Stadium, the 2022 football season at Eggerss Stadium. And then as soon as the season's over, which, you know, every year they change the playoff format. We could play a lot of games there, maybe not play any games there. As soon as the season's over, then we do the major construction underneath the stadium and on top of the stadium, press box, wall restoration, and then be ready to roll on 2023 fall season with everything done for the most part. You know how that goes. I mean, but all, you know, we've been having the wine and dine with the 4 contractors and the 4 architects, and they're all saying that is realistic, Mark. That is very realistic to do that in that time frame. And we kept on, we're prodding them. Tell us if it's not. Well, we can't guarantee it. We think it's realistic. Yeah.
I got 5 questions for you.
Okay.
First of all, I just want to thank you. It's been a pleasure knowing you since you had my kids at Ohio City, and personally I've known you on other levels, and you were the right man to sell this. So I thank you for that. And my question, and I'm so proud of our football team because they're doing a wonderful job right now. And with that in mind, my first question for you is, I know some of the counties south of us have wonderful 50/50s. Everybody know what I'm talking about, where you can make some big cash. That other 50 goes towards the football stadium itself, is my understanding. Why don't we promote that to help offset maintenance costs?
That's a great question. We just had an athletic council meeting. An athletic council, it basically involves a superintendent, athletic director, high school principal, middle school principal, and a board member. We had that very same conversation that we have not done a great job, or even a good job, of employing our 50/50. We need to, with technology today and different things, we can do both. We can do it electronically, we can do it at the stadium, you know, and every year is not a great year. I know that. Believe me, I went through my son's 0-10 season when he was a sophomore. It's brutal, but when you do have teams that excel or do have events that excel, you need to try to promote that. And we know that's on us. So I'll take full responsibility as a school. We need to do a better job with that and partner, whoever that is going to be. You have to have people that are passionate about whatever you do. That's one of the things. This isn't, you know, about Mark Bagley. I just love Van Wert, and I love the communities around it. And I didn't know a thing about Ohio City 18 years ago. I didn't. I played church league basketball in the gym a little bit. That's all I knew. But when I came here, I fell in love. It was like Mayberry. It felt home to me, and they embraced me and accepted me. And that's how this group has been the same way. They're servant leaders. They don't care about getting credit. They just want to help make Van Wert better. And so we need to do a better job from our point of the school to do that. So hopefully it helps you out.
So, the next thing is I know, there's been times in my life I've not had a pot to piss in, and there's times that I have a few $100 and go have fun. Knowing that there are fixed income people, whether they're elderly or whether they're just down on their luck, for whatever reason, you got all, $60 might not sound that much to me. I just run my taxes, but it might be a huge thing for them. Just bringing that aware. And then also, there are people who have left money to the school systems. Are we allocating, or can we allocate that money towards this at all? That's the next.
I'll answer that question. So, and I appreciate that. I'm very sensitive to that. I know that for some people, it's not going to be worth it for them. And I'll have a conversation with them. I'll talk to anybody. I've had conversations with a lot of people in Van Wert that I never thought I would, but just to get to know the facts and try to present that, knowing that, what can we do to help you in other areas, that kind of thing. But your question, responding, what was your question again? Sorry.
You know how like people will donate
Yeah,
money at through their will?
absolutely.
Like that.
Yeah, and if they signify where they want to go to, athletic fund, we'll definitely put it in that fund, without question, because that started to happen. We chose to, one of the things that we thought about for a long time as a school board, and myself, is do we fundraise before, or do we look at putting the bond issue up and whatever comes in later goes toward a fund like that? And we chose to, we were afraid, I'll be honest with you, that if we tried to fundraise before, got maybe, they said we could raise 1.3 billion to 1.5. There's no way, knowing that there'd be a bond issue, to raise that much. Let's say we raised $200,000 or $300,000. We still had the bond issue there. We thought about, okay, here's what we need. Approximately $4.5 to $5 million. And then whatever comes in after that, whether it's naming rights, whether it's people want to donate to Van Wert Athletic Fund, then we put that in the fund. And we have that, we've got the seed money going right now with that. And, there's, I said 13,000 plus, and they're now in more. People have been donating. I don't really follow what's happened with our stadium committee, but there's been a lot of money donated toward them to help promote this, which I'm more information, but they do more promotion. So there's been a ton of people donating toward that too, which is okay. But long term, it's great for us at the school to get that money in our athletic fund.
Two more questions.
Okay.
I see that it's for per house, per owning a home. What about people who have farmland? Is that going to increase like per acreage or anything like that, or is it just per home?
The way I understand it, it is per home. But again, to know all the different things about bonds, I'm still learning. I will get that exact answer for you. But that's the way I understand it.
And then my last question, you talked about concerts. So, and also bringing funds, what exactly do you mean concert? Like, are you talking about like a country concert, or are you talking about, what does that look like?
So, some of the dreams and imaginations and talks, and nothing official yet, but you talk about Van Wert Live, what they've done. They've expanded out a little bit, not only to the free concerts downtown Van Wert, the park, but they've also experimented with going out to the fairgrounds. I just think with a turf field that can allow for bigger bands, bigger concerts, whether it's country, whether it's whatever that may be, and having a stadium that's handicap accessible, the nice press box, maybe even like John mentioned, some seats in the middle that would be VIP type seats. That could be a great partnership. And that would allow for us to do bigger, better things. Has there been any formal discussions with Van Wert Live? No. But I know Taffy Stover well, and we talk a lot, and I know we both start thinking about what it could be if it all gets done. Right now, it doesn't make any sense. With our field, it would get tore up. With our stadium, it's not easy to get into. for that kind of event. It just wouldn't make sense now, but if we did some things to make it 21st century, I think it makes sense. Thank you. You didn't drill me too bad.
Do you get any money from the playoffs, like whenever we had in 2 playoff games like whenever the Athletic Association gave us?
He just pushed my buttons, didn't he? That is something like, for example, our athletic director, Trent Temple, is down in Columbus right now at a concert. And that's one of the things that we are advocating right now for. One of the things that has changed, as you know, is tickets go on sale sometime today, online. Everything's online. That money goes directly to the state OHSAA. We get $0 of that ticket money.
We used to get concessions.
We get concessions and parking if there is any. Our parking obviously isn't great right now. So, and we get 50-50, which we've already talked about how we need to improve on that. We get half of that. They get the other half. So we're really a quarter when it comes down to it. So that's an area that, we all got hit by the pandemic for some reason. And they got $2 million from the governor. They didn't get near as hard as what they were talking about. So again, I'm thankful for organizations that provide us tournaments, but they've not done us any favors recently, and so we got some work to do with them, and that's going to take board members, superintendents, principals, athletic directors, community members to say, enough's enough. For a high school kid to say, oh, I forgot to buy my ticket, and 2 hours before the game it costs them $2 extra, that's ridiculous. That's not right, and so that $12 for a playoff game, versus what it should be. It is what it is, but we don't get a lot. We get enough to kind of break even, and that's what happens. So it's a lot of work for people too. So I'm not complaining, but we have some work to do in that area. So that could be another area where we could get some funds if things change in the future. Anybody else? The committee members have anything to say tonight? Anything else you want to add?
On the tax part of it, Mark?
Yes.
When they were giving the examples, they were basing it off of the taxable value of a house, but it's actually on any of the property that would be in New York City school districts, regardless of the type of property.
Thank you, Stacy. I appreciate that. So yeah, it'd be more than that. It'd be more than a house then. So yeah.
Any type of property, so property is, I'm not one of the rich farmers, but I got a lot of rich farming friends.
Yeah.
But anyhow, but you might have any kind of structural building or land.
It's based on the taxable value of your property in New York City school districts.
So then,
Yeah, your property, yeah.
Would it be 5, 10 years?
It's 20 years. We had an option that had it up to 40 years. I'm like, no way, that we're not doing that. That's, I'll probably, if I live in 91, it's a miracle. Especially if I'm around Eric McCracken too long, it's going to live about another 5 years. Just kidding. But no, we try to cut things in the middle of everything. We try to really look at this and what seems the fairest and those kind of things. And so 20 years is a long time, but at the same time, we go down to 10, then it became a lot more expensive for people, and we didn't want to shortchange that and make it that way either, so.
Mark, I have just 2 comments. When you talk about the athletic fund, so its purpose is to take care of all the sports. So it's not just football and basketball, just not the ones that generate income. So it's, if there's needs for swimming and wrestling and whatever else there is, volleyball, whatever other expenses there are, that fund is put in place to support all the athletics. And the other part of this is, I don't think we can underestimate the value of some naming rights. I think it can generate a lot of income, if we do it correctly. You do the field, you do the scoreboard, whatever we can do, and then that money can then go into the athletic fund specifically earmarked for maintenance of the stadium. So I think anything that you do, that you, either you build or you renovate, you gotta take care of, you know, what you have. And a lot of times you hear about, well, you know, there was no thought put into the after effect of the longevity of keeping something up to where it needs to be to that level. So I feel real good about, you know, what the administration has been talking about in putting a plan into place to maintain what we have, what we will have.
And that's a great point that John added. So the money that you saw on the wall of the Godey building, there's signs up there that show, they're newly added. 16 signs, I think there's 11 up right now, and 3 are accounted for next year. So there's only a couple more left. That money will go in their athletic fund. Our current scoreboard, all those contracts are up after this year. Those will be renegotiated. That'll go in our athletic fund. Our basketball gym right now, we have naming rights on the scoreboard and the floor, possibly when they redo it. That would go in there as well. So those are all things that we're looking at as we try to brainstorm. So every time someone speaks at these events, more things come in mind that we're trying to do to make it so we're not going to. That's the thing we don't want to do, is go back to the voters and tax people and tax. And that's not our intention. But I told you, you know, my 29 years, 27 at Van Wert, I've heard about this for most of my career. What are we going to do? And so we think the time is right with income right now with the tax rates and those kind of things. So we think now is the time to go, and the support from people is there overall. There's questions, there's concerns. I understand that, but I'm just so thankful for the group that you know that if they're working behind the scenes on trying to help with this project, and my job is to make sure we put out an awesome product for not just Van Wert City Schools, but for Van Wert City. That's huge, and for everybody in our community, Ohio City to north of Van Wert, to be proud of, to make it a premier stadium, a premier event center, and that's where I feel like my passion lies and our group's passion lies right now. So, anything else tonight? I really appreciate taking hour of your night on a Tuesday night when you could be home and those kind of things. And call me anytime. I'll get back with you as soon as possible. I'm always going to be available to talk to people. Email is okay and texting is okay, but talking to people is the right way to do things. And I want to come back in the spring, and I want to burn this thing because this is a couple years old, and there's some good ideas here that started. I'm very thankful for those ideas. They got spent several years on. I want to burn this thing and show you what it's really going to look like. And it's not going to be extravagant, but it's going to be very nice. And it's going to be something that everyone can be proud of. John.
What's the timeline for finalizing the actual architect to go with it? You said you had 3 or 4, so.
Yeah, we have to have, they want the information by December 1st. As far as what we're going to put the bond at, we have to select, no later than January 4th. That's like the drop deadline date. And the people that we have to do what's called an RFQ. And that sends things out to them, and they'll submit what their proposal is to us. And then it's not a big formula here that our school board will, in our December board meeting, we'll look at it and we'll pick one, probably by our December, it's gotta be by our December board meeting, which is like the 15th of December. So we're talking the next month. Pretty much our next board meeting is tomorrow night, but the following one, we have to have that picked and selected by then. And we've got great options, and fortunately, they were all down there's a conference down in Columbus last weekend. They're all down there, and so you find out a lot about people when you're not getting a presentation. When you're out, at a restaurant or getting a drink, whatever, you find out who cares about it. And we really want that small town feel. We got some architects out there that have a small town feel. Thanks. Have a great night. Go Cougars.